7 shocking 2025 prophecies that are coming true now. They whispered of a time when the world would turn not with seasons, but with secrets. Secrets buried deep in ancient scrolls and echoed in the winds of forgotten temples. A time when the prophecies of old would no longer be stories, but headlines. And now, in the heart of our modern world, lit by screens and drowned in noise, the signs are no longer hiding. They're screaming. Massive solar flares disrupting global networks, leaders rising and falling like tides. Natural disasters no longer random, but eerily timed with predictions made thousands of years ago. These aren't tales from mystics on mountaintops. These are real events unfolding right now, in our lifetime, on our watch. And while most scroll past, lost in the endless scroll of distraction, some feel it. A tug in the soul. A strange sense that something is shifting. If you're watching this, maybe you're one of them. Maybe you're waking up. This is the journey of wisdom. And today, we uncover 7 shocking prophecies about 2025 that are no longer waiting for the future. They're happening now. Before we begin, don't let this truth be buried. Like, share, and subscribe so others can open their eyes too. Drop a comment below if something stirs within you, because you're not the only one. The journey begins now. Number 1. The colossal celestial body and the global earthquake. They say before the end begins, the sky will bleed and the stars will tremble. And in those ancient words, we find more than poetry. We find a coded warning echoing across time. Today, science and prophecy seem to be converging in unsettling harmony. From centuries-old texts whispered in sacred halls to today's observatories, watching the heavens with anxious eyes, the signs are eerily aligned. What some call myth, others now call prediction. There is growing speculation supported not only by spiritual traditions, but also by astronomical data that a massive, long-concealed celestial body is drifting closer to our planet. Not a simple comet or asteroid, but something cloaked in mystery, invisible to the naked eye, yet powerful enough to warp space around it. Some researchers suggest its gravitational pull could disrupt Earth's delicate balance, while others warn of electromagnetic interferences and geophysical effects we can barely predict. From the east, sages warned of the sky cracking open and the earth crying out. From the west, prophets spoke of a night when the stars recoil in fear and the ground roars as if alive. These aren't just poetic images. They reflect deep archetypal knowledge, perhaps memories of a cycle the Earth has seen before and may now see again. Modern instruments have picked up strange perturbations in planetary motion, irregular gravitational pulls, and increasing magnetic fluctuations. While the mainstream may not yet fully acknowledge the threat, subtle clues suggest that something is indeed drawing closer. If this cosmic visitor interacts with Earth's field, the effects could be catastrophic. A seismic event so powerful it registers a 10 on the Richter scale, something we've never recorded in modern history. Cities would collapse, coastlines would be reshaped, and oceans could rise in chaotic fury. And yet, even this is only part of the truth. As the outer world shakes, the inner world must awaken. The greatest of all miracles is to be alive, said Thich Nhat Hanh, and now more than ever, being present to our life and our planet is essential. What shakes the ground may also shake our values, forcing us to ask, what truly matters? What do we cling to when everything physical becomes fragile? This isn't just a physical earthquake, it's a symbolic one. Perhaps, deep within the earth, ancient energies long dormant are being stirred, not to destroy, but to wake us from our illusions of permanence and control. All conditioned things are impermanent, the Buddha taught. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. In this, there may be hidden wisdom. not just about surviving external disasters, but preparing inwardly. The idea that something unseen can suddenly change everything reflects the nature of life itself, how one moment can rewrite everything. And in the context of modern life, with its distractions and artificial comforts, we must pause and ask, are we living in alignment with what matters? Are we grounded in values or lost in surface pleasures? The wise do not panic when the ground trembles. They listen, because sometimes what shakes is not meant to destroy, but to awaken. So instead of fear, cultivate awareness. Stay informed, but also stay calm. Prepare not just your home, but your heart. For in a time when the skies flicker and the earth stirs, your true foundation must be within. And as you hear these words, let them not just entertain, but resonate. Let them move you gently towards a more mindful life. Because the storm may not be stoppable, but how we meet it, that is always in our hands. Number 2. Natural disasters that echo ancient prophecies. In 2025, nature isn't just reacting, it's communicating in ways both ancient and urgent. You might ask yourself, are these extreme events just part of a changing climate, or is something deeper unfolding? In just the first half of this year, we've already seen more than 134 earthquakes above magnitude 5 shake the Pacific and Asia, numbers that would have seemed unthinkable not long ago. One of the strongest, a magnitude 7.7 earthquake in Myanmar, didn't just rattle buildings, it leveled communities and lives, becoming etched into the memory of a generation. Meanwhile, South Korea was caught off guard by wildfires that spread so quickly and ferociously that entire towns were engulfed before evacuation orders could even be delivered. And in the United States, 10 massive storms, each given names that once belonged to ancient beasts, tore through multiple states within days, leaving devastation in their wake. It's not just one country or one type of disaster, it's global and it's constant. So the question is, why now? Why this pattern of destruction, all unfolding at once? The truth becomes even more unsettling when we look back through time. Prophets and sages from many cultures spoke of such a time. Nostradamus, known for his cryptic but shockingly accurate quatrains, hinted at great upheaval when fire and water would rage. Baba Vanga, the blind mystic from Bulgaria, foresaw nature turning against mankind. And Nguyen Binh Khiem, a Vietnamese scholar and seer whose prophecies are only now gaining wider recognition, wrote chilling lines centuries ago. Fire will fall from the sky, and June's dew will be the last of its kind. Once interpreted as poetry, these words now feel like warnings we failed to take seriously. When wildfires erupt from the sky and storms grow more fierce by the month, it's hard not to see prophecy lining up with the present. Do you believe it's all just coincidence? Or is it possible that nature, long treated as a backdrop to our human story, is stepping into the spotlight to deliver a message we can no longer ignore? The disasters of 2025 don't just echo the warnings of the past, they follow them with eerie precision. These aren't random acts of nature, they're signposts, signals, a call for us to reflect not only on what's happening around us, but on how we live, what we value, and what we've lost sight of. As the earth rumbles and roars, it challenges us to wake up, not just to the science of climate, but to the wisdom of the ages. The Buddha once said, "The foot feels the foot when it feels the ground." Maybe these disasters are not punishments, but awakenings, opportunities for us to finally feel the ground we've long ignored. They push us to ask difficult questions. Are we living in balance with the world around us? Are we listening to the voices of those who came before us? And most importantly, are we prepared, not just in terms of survival kits, but in spirit and community, for what may lie ahead? The lesson here is clear. The earth is not just a resource, It is a living system with rhythms and responses. When it speaks, we must not just hear, we must understand. Let these disasters not only stir fear, but inspire responsibility. Let them guide us back to the wisdom we've forgotten and forward into choices that honor both the past and the fragile future we share. Number 3. Solar storms and the collapse of the digital world. Let me ask you something. What would you do if, tomorrow morning, you woke up and your phone didn't work, your Wi-Fi was gone, GPS stopped tracking, and even the lights wouldn't turn on, not for a few minutes, but for days, maybe even weeks? Sounds like a scene from a science fiction movie, right? But this is exactly the kind of scenario that experts and astrologers alike are warning us about, and not in some distant future. This could happen in 2025. One of the most vocal about this threat is Abhigya Anand, a young Indian astrologer whose previous predictions, including the global health crisis of 2019, earned him international attention. He's now raising a red flag about what he believes is the next major turning point for humanity. Not a war, not a virus, but something far more ancient and powerful: the sun itself. According to Anand, we are stepping into the most turbulent part of solar cycle 25, a natural phase where the sun becomes highly active, releasing enormous solar flares and magnetic storms. These solar events aren't just beautiful auroras in the sky. They carry radiation so intense it can severely disrupt or even destroy our satellites, our power grids, and our entire digital infrastructure. Think about how deeply we rely on technology in our daily lives, how even basic tasks like banking, grocery shopping, driving, and communicating now depend on systems that are floating in space or controlled by vast server networks on Earth. Now ask yourself, what happens when all of that is suddenly taken away? In many ways, we've let the light of technology replace our inner light. But this potential solar crisis isn't just about physical disruptions, it's a spiritual wake-up call. Anand warns that the collapse won't be limited to systems, but will ripple out into our economies, our governments, and our societies. The more we depend on automation, artificial intelligence, and cloud technology, the more fragile we become in the face of natural forces we cannot control. Space agencies like NASA and the European Space Agency aren't brushing these predictions aside. In fact, they're actively preparing for what they call grid-down events, scenarios where power outages could stretch across countries, affecting everything from water supply to food logistics to hospital systems. And history shows us this isn't just hypothetical. In 1859, the Carrington event, a powerful solar storm, disrupted telegraph systems around the world, back when electricity was still in its infancy. Now imagine something of that scale hitting today's world, where nearly everything runs on a digital thread. Are we truly ready for that kind of vulnerability? Or have we grown so used to convenience that we've forgotten how to function without it? This isn't about fear, it's about awareness. About stepping back and seeing the bigger picture. What are we building our lives on? If the answer is solely technology, then maybe it's time to reinforce the foundations with something deeper: resilience, community, and mindfulness. As the Dhammapada reminds us, your worst enemy cannot harm you as much as your own unguarded thoughts. Perhaps the storm that's coming isn't just solar, it's a reckoning with how we've chosen to live. And now, with time still on our side, we can begin to ask the right questions and prepare in ways that go beyond tech. We can choose to build not only smarter systems, but stronger hearts, because when the sky speaks, through light, through heat, through silence, we must be ready to listen, not with fear, but with wisdom. So, how will you respond when the sun calls? If you've made it this far, you're already opening your eyes to the hidden truths unfolding around us. Comment, Awakened 2025, to show you're ready to face what's coming with clarity and courage. Don't click away, there's more to uncover that could change how you see the world forever. Stay until the end to witness the revelations that may shape your future. Number 4. The Great Power Shift, from West to East. For generations, much of the world has revolved under the influence of Western powers, economically, culturally, politically. But as we step deeper into 2025, that long-standing dominance is beginning to waver, and the momentum of history is shifting in a new direction. You might ask yourself, is this just a temporary adjustment, or are we witnessing a true turning point in global balance? Over 300 years ago, a Japanese ascetic monk named Jiku, known for his solitary meditations under waterfalls and for entering deep trances through fasting, left behind cryptic verses that now feel uncannily relevant. He once spoke of a time when the West would shake and eastern winds would rise, words that sounded like mysticism in his era, but today echo with clarity and weight. And now, as Western nations struggle under economic pressure, rising inflation, widening political divides, and the harsh realities of climate disruption such as ongoing droughts, the East is beginning to stand in quiet contrast. Countries like India and Vietnam, often underestimated in global forecasts, are proving remarkably resilient in 2025, strengthening their gold reserves, securing critical supply chains, investing in technology and infrastructure, and showing a kind of steady progress that feels both intentional and unstoppable. This isn't an aggressive rise, but a purposeful and balanced one. It reflects not just a new chapter in geopolitics, but a kind of historical correction. And the deeper you look, the more you see how these shifts may have long been foreseen. In Russia, recently resurfaced writings attributed to Grigory Rasputin, the controversial mystic once known as the Mad Monk, speak of a black eclipse and hint that the bear will turn its gaze south. For years, these statements were dismissed, but satellite images from early 2025 now show increased Russian naval activity shifting not toward Europe, but into southern seas, a strategic redirection that military analysts have struggled to explain, yet fits eerily well with Rasputin's words. When prophecies start aligning with geopolitical data, it forces us to rethink what we thought we knew about power and prediction. And this isn't just about military moves or economic numbers, it's about energy, mindset, and direction. While some nations hold tighter to the fading structures of the past, others are building new systems rooted in both tradition and adaptation. And perhaps this is what ancient wisdom always hinted at, not collapse for the sake of fear, but correction for the sake of balance. The Buddha taught, better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace. In that spirit, we must ask ourselves, are we clinging to the illusion of permanence in a world that is clearly transforming, or are we open to learning from those who rise quietly with wisdom rather than noise? The great power shift of 2025 isn't only a change on a map, it's a change in consciousness. What once seemed like prophecy is now policy. What once felt distant is now unfolding in real time. So the real question is, how will we respond to this shift? With fear, denial, or with humility and readiness to adapt? The rise of the East doesn't have to mean the fall of the West. It can mean a world that finally finds its center. The wise do not resist change, they learn how to move with it. And as this global tilt becomes more visible, perhaps the most valuable thing we can do is listen, not just to the news or the markets, but to the deeper rhythms of history and the still voices of those who warned us long ago. Number 5. Antarctica, the awakening of the forgotten land. Far beneath the quiet, icy surface of Antarctica, something is beginning to stir, and not just in the physical sense, but in a way that challenges everything we thought we knew about history, the Earth, and even ourselves. For many years, Antarctica was viewed as a lifeless, frozen desert, a place of harsh winds and solid ice, only relevant to scientists studying climate or explorers braving the cold. But in 2025, that perception is starting to shift dramatically. Recent satellite data has revealed sudden and unexplained changes in the continent's magnetic field, powerful enough to raise serious questions among researchers. These anomalies aren't linked to any known weather or tectonic activity, which makes them all the more puzzling. More than that, advanced imaging scans have picked up previously hidden, symmetrical structures buried deep beneath the ice. Structures that don't appear to be the work of nature, but rather show signs of intelligent design. What could these formations mean? Could they be remnants of a lost civilization? And if so, why now? These discoveries have coincided with a noticeable increase in restricted military flights from various nations over isolated regions of the continent. Operations shrouded in secrecy, prompting speculation from both scientists and truth seekers around the globe. Whistleblowers, though often dismissed, have persistently claimed that something ancient has awakened under the ice, a presence, a technology, or even a consciousness that challenges not only our understanding of geology, but the very story of human origin. This isn't just a modern mystery, it's something that resonates with old prophecies and sacred teachings long buried in time. The ancient Jewish mystical text, the Zohar, spoke of a hidden land that would rise when the world forgets itself, a poetic warning that suddenly feels timely and relevant. Could Antarctica be that forgotten land? Some believe it is, suggesting that what's rising from beneath the ice is not only physical, but symbolic, something meant to shake our assumptions and reconnect us to truths we once ignored. Across many ancient cultures, we find references to the blind eye opening, a metaphor that suggests the unveiling of hidden wisdom or the lifting of a collective ignorance. In 2025, this symbolism feels incredibly real, as if the Earth itself is trying to remind us of something we've lost in our pursuit of progress and convenience. What if this isn't just about Antarctica melting, but about a reawakening, a deeper awareness returning to our consciousness? Could it be that the ice is not only thawing, but revealing a doorway to knowledge we were never meant to forget? These questions don't have simple answers, but they are worth asking, especially now when technology, politics, and even nature seem to be pulling us in different directions. 3 things cannot be long hidden, said the Buddha: the sun, the moon, and the truth. Maybe what's happening in Antarctica is part of that truth finally revealing itself, not in a flash, but gradually, through signs and shifts that call us to pay attention. So how do we respond? With curiosity instead of fear, with humility instead of arrogance, and with a willingness to see beyond the surface. The lesson here isn't just about geography, it's about perception, about recognizing that the world is still full of mystery, and that sometimes the answers we seek are waiting in the most silent, forgotten places. In a time when so much feels uncertain, perhaps the most powerful thing we can do is open our eyes, not just to the news, but to the deeper story the Earth is trying to tell us. Number 6. The Great Splitting of Human Consciousness. Not all revolutions are loud or visible. Some begin quietly, within the depths of the human heart. In 2025, many feel that we are living through one of these silent revolutions, a spiritual turning point that was foretold by sages and seers across cultures and time. It's not a war over land, borders, or technology, but something far more subtle and profound, a shift in human consciousness itself. Prophets from around the world, from the 12th century mystic Hildegard von Bingen to the Hopi elders of North America, and the Dogon people of Mali spoke of a time when humanity would face a great divide. But this divide isn't about nations or ideologies, it's about spirit, about energy, about who we are beneath all the noise. These traditions describe a moment when people will separate, not physically, but vibrationally, into two distinct paths. One path leads toward clarity, presence, and deep connection to life and earth. The other drifts into illusion, distraction, and disconnection. In their visions, this moment was represented by two earths, one dim, heavy, and artificial, a reflection of fear and control, the other bright, natural, and alive, a mirror of awareness, compassion, and simplicity. The idea isn't that the world is splitting in two physically, but that people's experiences will dramatically diverge based on the state of their inner world. Now you might ask, how does that affect you? How do you know which path you're on? The answer doesn't lie in your beliefs, your labels, or what you say, but in how you live, how you feel, and what you choose daily. The energy you carry, your thoughts, your choices, they all shape the reality you perceive. If you find yourself feeling constantly anxious, stuck in loops of conflict or craving, lost in endless digital distraction, you may be resonating with a lower frequency that keeps you bound to that gray, chaotic earth. But if you're starting to seek peace over drama, connection over competition, and awareness over noise, even in small ways, then perhaps you're aligning with the brighter path. It's not about perfection, it's about direction. The Buddha said, "We are shaped by our thoughts. We become what we think." When the mind is pure, joy follows like a shadow that never leaves. This speaks to the very heart of the divide we are experiencing, one that flows not from outside pressures but from within the soul. In 2025, it feels as though the veil is lifting. Many people report an increasing sensitivity to energy, to truth, to falsehood. The old structures of power and distraction are still loud, but they are becoming transparent. They no longer hold the same grip on those who are waking up. But here's something important to reflect on. Awakening doesn't mean escaping the world. It means seeing the world clearly and choosing to meet it with compassion, presence, and responsibility. The Great Divide, then, is not a punishment or a test of who is better. It is a mirror reflecting who is willing to remember who they truly are. You might wonder, where does all this lead? What happens to the two paths? While no one can give a complete answer, ancient prophecies suggest that those aligned with awareness and harmony will begin to feel supported by life itself, as if carried by an unseen current that guides, protects, and reveals deeper meaning. And those who resist change, who cling to fear, division, and control, may feel more lost, more unstable, and more confused as time moves forward. So the real question becomes, who are you becoming in the face of these changes? Not what you own, or how you appear, or what you believe, but how you show up in each moment. Are you choosing truth over convenience, stillness over chaos, community over ego? As the energy of the world grows more intense, these choices matter more than ever. Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without, the Buddha reminds us. And maybe that's the lesson of the Great Divide. It's not about a splitting apart, but a coming back to what truly matters. Because when everything around us feels uncertain, the most powerful act is to center ourselves in clarity and kindness. That's the world we help create, not by force, but by presence. So, as this great shift unfolds, ask yourself gently, which world are you choosing to feed? You're not just watching a video, you're waking up. These 2025 prophecies are unfolding fast, and awareness is your greatest tool. Drop a "I see the signs" in the comments if you refuse to be caught off guard. The most eye-opening revelations are still ahead. Keep watching. Number 7. the final test. The most dangerous kind of control doesn't look like oppression. It looks like convenience, comfort, even progress. And in 2025, we may be stepping into what could be humanity's final and most subtle test, not marked by war or disease, but by a quiet seduction of the mind. This seduction comes not with threats, but with glowing screens, soothing voices from devices, and the constant hum of artificial intelligence promising ease and speed at the cost of our attention, our awareness, and possibly our essence. For centuries, mystics and spiritual visionaries have warned of such a time, not a fall brought about by violence, but by distraction. A 14th-century Sufi poet once wrote with haunting clarity, "They will no longer need to be enslaved by chains, for the people will chain themselves with light." That light is everywhere today, in our pockets, on our walls, in our cars, offering endless information, entertainment, and stimulation, while slowly separating us from the silence, from stillness, and from the deeper parts of ourselves. This is not a judgment on technology itself, but a wake-up call about our relationship with it. Gopi Krishna, a 20th-century mystic who explored the mysteries of Kundalini and human consciousness, described this as a technological rapture, a kind of false ascension where humanity would come to believe that digital connection equaled spiritual evolution. But in truth, he warned, it would mark a time of deeper disconnection from nature, from our own bodies, from intuition, and from the simple joys that once defined being human. In 2025, his vision feels less like metaphor and more like a mirror. How often do you wake up and reach for your phone before anything else? How much of your day is filtered through apps, algorithms, and automated responses? Have we not already begun to trade curiosity for convenience and wisdom for speed? We speak in emojis instead of emotion. We rely on predictive text instead of our own voice, and we chase artificial intelligence while our natural intelligence goes unused. This isn't about fear, it's about awareness. The final test we now face is not about survival, but about self-recognition. Who are we becoming in this rapid race toward efficiency? Are we still present in our lives, or are we being carried passively along by the momentum of machine logic? The challenge isn't to reject all technology, but to remember that we were human before we were wired. And in forgetting that, we risk losing what is most sacred about our experience, the ability to feel deeply, to be still, to wonder, to love without a filter, and to choose consciously in every moment. The ancients warned of many things, floods, fire, and war, but the most powerful prophecies have always pointed inward, reminding us that the greatest danger lies not outside, but in the forgetting of ourselves. This prophecy is not about doom, but about choice. So what are we thinking now? What are we allowing into our minds, into our hearts, and into the space where our soul used to speak most clearly? If the lights go out, the apps crash, and the feeds go silent, will you still know how to be you? Will you know how to listen to the wind, feel the rhythm of your breath, and connect with another human being without needing a screen to translate it? The final test is not about how much we can innovate, but how well we can stay rooted as the world races forward. So, as this moment unfolds, ask yourself not what the machine can do, but what it has taken, and more importantly, what you're willing to reclaim. Because the future will be built, yes, but it must also be remembered. The question is not whether we can keep up with technology, but whether we can still remember how to come home to ourselves. So, as we stand at the edge of what may be one of the most transformative years in human history, we're reminded that prophecy isn't about fear, it's about awareness. The signs are here, the shifts are real, but how we respond, that's the real story. Whether these 7 prophecies stir belief, curiosity, or skepticism, the deeper message remains the same. Wake up, reconnect, And remember what it means to be truly alive in a world that's constantly changing. If this video sparked something within you, don't keep that light to yourself. Like, share, and subscribe to The Journey of Wisdom, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our upcoming explorations into ancient truths and modern awakenings. Together, let's walk this path, not in fear, but in wisdom. Until next time, stay mindful, stay grounded, and stay open.